Hey there, I am back with another deck review, and today we're going to be looking at Forbidden Forest from Humble Raja. This is the second deck from Bhavesh and Reena Mystery out of Toronto, the team behind Humble Raja. Their first deck was the really underappreciated Kings of India deck. It's a bit harder to find now, it's from several years ago, but if you get a chance to check it out, it's one of the great finds that I stumbled across years ago and really happy I did. But excited to see what they do with their second deck, a deck inspired by the mythology of Hinduism. It's not a theme that you see all that often, and so really excited to see their exploration of it. So let's get right into it. So the tuck case is done on this black matte cardstock, but it has an embossing and texturing on here that gives it the look and the feel of like leather, almost like a reptile skin on here. You can see the individual scales. It's a really cool, nice, almost feels like a soft touch tuck. And then it has details done in bright, vibrant, copper colored foil. It's one of those decks where the words are printed on what's traditionally the back of the tuck. You can tell from the thumb cutout up there. But it has Forbidden Forest along with the Humble Raja logo up there at the top. And then the bottom, First Class in Sanskrit down here, playing cards. Beautiful, simple, very clean look to it. And as you turn to the sides of the tuck, you can see it's inspired to look a little bit like an actual book. Almost like this is the spine of the book, and you can see little ridges in the embossing that give you that kind of feel of the spine. And then features images of 3 of the characters that we're going to actually see featured in more vibrant detail as we get into the court card. So a little bit of a preview of some of what to expect. 3 more characters on the other side. Like I said, all of these are going to be featured on the court cards as we go through. Bottom has your ad copy for Humble Raja, as well as Art of Play, who distributed the deck, and USPCC, who printed it. And then the top has some more Humble Raja branding up there and some beautiful little artwork, a couple more emblems of some of those mythical characters. And on the back, or I guess the front of the tuck case, you get this beautiful foiled graphic of Kaliya, who is a dreaded poisonous serpent who once waged war with one of the most revered Hindu deities, Vishnu. So Vishnu's mount, Garuda, was the king of birds and the enemy of all serpents, and so engaged in a mythical fight with Kaliya. And the Sanskrit characters underneath actually tell a little small piece of that battle that Garuda and Vishnu waged against the serpent. So very cool, simple little emblem, and of course surrounded with that reptile skin, or whatever you want to call it, texture. You flip to the other side, you can see the elongated tuck seal done in that bright blue color that kind of serves as the seal there. And then as you open it up, you get a nice little paragraph here, a little bit of an intro to the deck. So it says, this deck is dedicated to those who are guided by their curiosity and imagination. Herein lie ancient creatures from South Asian lore that have been kept alive by a long history of storytelling. And then the interior, a couple little emblems there, and you can just see no printing on the interior of the tuck. But really cool, kind of book-inspired tuck case here, but doesn't look like your classic book tuck case. It kind of has some nice, interesting little touches that make this one unique. But anyway, that is the tuck case. Let's get into the cards. And we'll start like we usually do with the back design. And here it is. So this is interesting because it doesn't on the face of it really fit with the theme, but sort of a sub theme of this is that it's a book of stories, a book of Hindu stories. And so in keeping with the book theme, this is actually inspired by some of the marbled end paper that many bookmakers way back in a long time ago would use as sort of a signature page. So in the interior of the book, that first page on either side, there would be ink supplied over the surface of the water that could create these really beautiful patterns on the pages of books. And that was the inspiration that was used here. And it's brought forward and given even more life by the accents of hot foil done in that bright copper color to give that extra little shine to it. The hot stamping, or that Metalux foil that USPCC uses, can sometimes be a little bit indistinct and muddled, but in this particular design, that doesn't hold it back at all. And despite how random and chaotic everything looks, this actually is a full 2-way back design, which is a nice touch. The emblem here, this wheel in the center, that's the Humble Raja logo, which gives you kind of a nice focal point in the center of the back design. So anyway, that is the back design, but onto the cards themselves. And we'll start out with the 2 jokers. And here they are. So on the face of it, they look very similar, almost like they're identical jokers, but they are not. The red joker here features a white vase in the center that contains something called Amrita, the elixir of life in Hindu tradition. And true to form, it's bursting everywhere with life. You get the flowers all over the place and even a little bird over here. And this red joker is a bit of a contrast to the black joker. This one has a very similar design at a glance, but as you look at all the details, definitely has a much darker turn. The vial of elixir has now been replaced with an actual monkey skull there in the center, and the plants that are growing all around here have a little bit of a dark feel to them as well. The cactus here is actually the Calarum umbellate, is what it's called. It's a succulent with flowers that actually smell like rotting meat. The flowering plants in here are poisonous, and you even get leaves of poison ivy around the edges and a poisonous snake winding its way through the skull. It's a really cool kind of dark spin on the red joker, and I love the contrast between these, but also the similarities. It's a really brilliant composition here where the two cards look at a quick glance almost like they're identical, but at the same time so different. Even the vase in the center of the red joker almost looks like a skull. So very cool pairing for a really nice artistic set of jokers. Two other extra cards you get, and we're following with that book theme. So the first one is an ad card done in the style of a classic book's title page here with Forbidden Forest by Humble Raja, an illustrated collection of mythological creatures. So cool little nod to the book sub-theme, I guess I would call it, of this. And of course, what's a book without a table of contents? And the table of contents tells you a little bit about what to expect as we get into the courts. But of course, we'll talk more about that as we get to the courts themselves. All right, so the aces hint at another common theme that weaves its way through the deck, and that's the different areas that are represented. So each one of the aces features a large, fairly classically shaped pip in the center, but each one has an image of one of the different domains that some of the different stories or mythological characters came from. And each one of the suits is going to represent one of those domains. So the ace of spades with the forbidden forest underneath, this represents the grassland. So you can see the grassland scene there, the lightning in the background, the buildings in the foreground. Really cool kind of artistic scene there in the middle. And then as you turn to the diamonds are the jungle, and so you can see the jungle trees there. It has a much different kind of color scheme here, a lot more bright reds and yellows that are brought to life. The clubs pay homage to the seas, and so you can see the flowing water all the way around, and the hearts are the skies and the winds. So 4 different domains and a hint of where some of the characters are going to find their homes as we get into the courts. Love the artwork on these and the really interesting style that you can see sort of developing as we go through these. All right, but now on to the number cards. So the number cards do have classic or familiar pips, but they are a little bit custom and a little bit different color here. Almost looks black maybe on camera, but these are little bits of like shades of dark greens and blues, kind of a gradient of color in there. Nice, easy to read pip and index in the corner as well. So darker theme on these, and you can see the custom layout of the pips as we get into some of the higher numbers here. So kind of gives it that interesting feel overall. Red cards also have a little bit of color variation, darker bits, lighter bits, but done in a more classic red or almost pinkish red. You can see that from one pip to another, you can get some variation, which gives it that, again, sort of natural and organic feel as you go through. But familiar shape to the diamonds, and then back to the clubs, and finally into the hearts. So that's the number cards. Nothing too special on these, but you do get some nice little custom touches. And then we get to the courts. And the courts are where we really get to dive deep into Hindu mythology, with each court featuring a dynamic and dramatic image of one of the characters from Hindu stories. So some of the ones we're going to see are really well known. Others a bit more obscure. And like I mentioned with the aces, each one of the suits is going to represent a different physical domain. So the courts are going to all come from that region or that area. So the spades all come from the grasslands, starting with the Mahishasura. This is the half-human, half-buffalo demon trickster who was capable of shape-shifting and was ultimately killed in battle by Durga in what was a triumph of good over evil. So kind of a symbolic character here. And you can get a really good glimpse of the art style that we'll see here. It's an interesting mix of sort of ancient crude drawings, but also modern color and styling on here. It really gives it a really cool look to it overall. And I love the sort of arrangement. As you go through all the courts, you can see interesting arrangements and poses. They give you a really nice composition to the cards. Like on this one, the diagonals of the buffalo's horns arranged in such a way to give just a nice little angle to the whole card. But anyway, that is just one of the many court cards. So let's go now to the Queen of Spades. This is Hayagriva, who is the horse-headed avatar of the goddess Vishnu on the Queen of Spades. And then we get another one of Vishnu's avatars. This is Narasimha, the god of destruction. He appears as a man lion on the King of Spades. This one, particularly fierce pose. I love the anger in the face there, and even clutching a human heart. Very cool look to this one. One of my favorite of the court cards. All right, but now as we go to the jungle for the diamonds, we start off with Sugriva and Vali as the Jack and the Queen. These were two monkey kings, so they were actually brothers who ultimately fought for control of the kingdom of the holy monkeys. They had a legendary struggle, a back and forth fight with each other, and it's actually told in the Ramayana epic story. So very cool. Monkeys, you can see them almost like they're yelling at each other if you arrange the cards side by side, but the two warrior monkeys. So that's another cool pair. And then probably my favorite card in the whole deck, just for the interesting contrast, this one on the King of Diamonds, this is called Jambavan. He was the divine king of bears who was created by Brahma. He was said to be the wisest bear in the world. And the reason I love this card is just the contrast in the expressions. So many of the characters in this one are portraying, raw power or anger of some sort. But Jambavan really has an almost serene and whimsical look on his face that really makes this card stand out. You can see he's got the very gentle character with a bird perched on his finger. But really, really like this card. All right, now we go to the clubs. And of course, we're going to go to the creatures of the sea, starting with the Jack, which depicts Makara, who was a legendary sea creature who served as a vehicle for several deities, including Ganga. The Makara is a crocodile said to be a guardian of gateways and portals in India. But again, really cool kind of pose to it with that unique tail flared up in the air. So that is the Jack of Clubs. The Queen we've actually talked about already. This is the same character featured on the tuck box. And as mentioned, this legendary serpent that we see here is Kalia, the poisonous many-headed serpent. The stories said that Kalia would actually turn the waters black with venom. And then, as the King of Clubs, we have Ananta, the celestial stake that Vishnu himself reclines on. This one, the name Ananta actually means endless or infinite, and the flow of the body here even forms an infinity symbol. Another really cool compositional decision that was made on the King of Clubs. All right, and then the last suit is the hearts, which represent the skies. And starting with the Jack of Hearts, Garuda, the enemy of serpents. Another one that we saw mentioned in the story of Kalia. And of course, this one, as Garuda is the enemy of serpents, features another serpent clutched in his grasp as they fight in battle. And he's about to take a bite out of that serpent there. So very cool card on that one. The Queen of Hearts, this is another bird. This is a two-headed bird who goes by the name Gandabarunda, who was said to have immense magical strength and was actually a symbol of resilience against attack. So kind of more of a defensive character. You see that two-headed bird with the talon perched out to the side. And then finally is Arivata. This was actually the very first one of the court cards that I personally saw. Arivata is the elephant of the clouds with his multiple tusks and 7 trunks. Not actually 7 depicted on here, but the legend said he had 7 trunks. And usually depicted as being a spotless white elephant. So that is Arivata as the final court card. And that is it. A beautiful set of courts. I love the artwork on this. I love the inspiration, the detail, and the interesting contrast with things like the really contrasting style of the back design of the cards and kind of going after that book sub-theme. It's a really interesting deck, and as you learn more about the inspiration, I think it really just sort of brings it all to life. As far as handling, these are done by USPCC. Handle beautifully. Sometimes that metal lux can make things a little bit harder to handle, but this one fans beautifully smoothly, and that borderless design combined with the foil hits really help these fans stand out really nicely. So great fanning deck, really nice handling on this one overall. Obviously this is for a lot of people going to be more of an art deck, so highly customized, but a deck that's smooth enough handling for cardistry, and just a deck that I think would be a lot of fun to use for gameplay or something like that. But anyway, that is the look at Forbidden Forest from Humble Raja. A phenomenal deck and a great follow-up deck to the equally impressive Kings of India deck. One worth checking out if you missed the Kickstarter. So I'll put a link down in the description to the Humble Raja website. Definitely keep an eye out there and take a chance to pick one of these up for yourself. Hope you enjoyed. Make sure to subscribe for more deck reviews, more unboxings. Let me know what else you want to see, and I'll see you for the next one.